All right, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning back in. I'm Zach Davis. I have a friend with me named Eric today. Eric, how are you, sir?
Good. Eric Rauch.
All right, y'all might know him from the Gary DeMar podcast. Is this like your first video appearance?
Um, I don't. I, no, I don't think so. But
I
my
just
first video
always hear your
appearance on the Zach
voice.
Davis show.
I just always hear your voice and never see your face. So,
Yeah, that's what I get that a lot. Like when people call or something, and I talk to them on the phone, they're like, "Oh, I recognize your voice."
yeah. So, are you the man that makes American Vision go? That's what the people want to know.
Well, sure, of course.
All right, I
You can
figured
you
you
can
might
ask
take
Gary and get
claim
a
to it.
different answer, but if you're going to ask me, I'm going to say yeah.
All right, up your value here is the
That's
name of the
right.
game. So,
That's right.
anyway, all right, we wrote a book on John the Baptist. Eric, this was really your idea. Why John the Baptist?
Well, I mean, I don't know how long of an answer you want, but I've been a part of preterism, getting a better understanding of preterism for about 22 years now. I worked at Answers in Genesis for 5 years, from 2000 to 2005. Is that right? I think that's right. And while there, I was taught the Bible's the final authority. It's everything is based on God's word. That's the Bible interprets itself. It's the best interpreter of itself. All the kind of things that you would hear from preterists as well. But I didn't know really anything about eschatology, period. And I really didn't know anything about Reformed theology or any of those kind of things. Well, I came in contact with all of those pretty much at the same time. There was a guy who, a couple of guys actually, who came into work at Answers in Genesis, and Mark was a full preterist, and he just started like showing me different things in the Bible, showing me verses, and kind of the same way that I came to Reformed theology. I was given a couple passages to read, like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it was just one of those things that, like, wow, I never really thought too much about what the Bible actually says. I just heard other people say it, and like, well, I guess that's what I believe. So it was the first time I really started reading for myself and studying for myself. And I became a Calvinist. I became Reformed pretty quickly. And then the preterism was just a little. It was a tougher sell for me. It was a big leap. But it was really through John the Baptist that did it for me. So I don't remember exactly how or why I started studying John, but he at least in our Christian Bibles, Malachi is the last book of the Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, it would be Second Chronicles, or just Chronicles. But either way, you've got this you got Cyrus as a Christ figure in Chronicles, and then obviously in Malachi, you've got this messenger. So you've got in Malachi 3:1, you've got he's called a messenger, and then at the end of Malachi 4, verses 5 and 6, it's Elijah. I'm going to send Elijah to you. And then there's this gap, and of course in our Bibles we just flip the page and it says the New Testament, and then but you don't realize you just jumped over 400 years of history, which points to another 400-year gap in Israel's past, where it seemed like God was silent for a while. His people were under oppression, and things weren't going great. And then somebody appears on the scene. John the Baptist appears on the scene, and once you start reading what he says and what Malachi says about him, what Isaiah says about him, and the day of the Lord, and how all these things are connected, it's just for me, it's a pretty hard. You have to ignore a lot, I think, with John, but if you take him seriously, he's a central figure.
Yeah, he's as prominent as anybody eschatologically in the New Testament, and he's the first
Absolutely.
one. So when I think what we did, we really just tried to piece together some things, and it's not a super long book. Our goal wasn't to give a 1,000-page treatise on every detail about John the Baptist, but
Right, which we could have exhausted a whole lot. I mean, there was a lot of things that we just stopped with. But they're like, this is enough, because once you start looking and you see him, he's on almost every page of the New Testament somehow.
Yeah, this we tried to make it very readable. Would you say that's
Yep.
fair? So, how did
And like you pointed out, that there's there's more quotes in that book than who do you say, Churchill?
yeah, you yeah,
Yeah,
you got more quotes than Winston Churchill in this thing. So you
I guess that's something.
Eric likes quotes
Well,
evidently.
what I
So,
was really trying to do there was show that this isn't some oddball, off the wall position. When people just look at John and they look at his ministry without connecting it to the day of the Lord, and without considering, without considering it in light of everything else, they're easily going to say, oh yeah, yeah, this is who Isaiah was talking about. He's the one who's smoothing the way
right,
before Jesus. He's the Elijah who was to come. They'll admit all these things, but then when you start tying it all together, then it was like, well, okay, he was a type of. He wasn't really the
right,
guy. He was a type of.
yeah, and that means that what those things mean has far more to do than just the first coming of Jesus. It really kind of pathways and segues the whole New Testament, and I think we tried to show some of that stuff on it. So,
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's not a preterist book in the sense that that's what we're trying to promote. I'm just
right,
trying to put John in his first century context and give people hopefully a deeper understanding
yeah,
of. He's not just some weirdo who just shows up
right,
and like, boy, he's this pious guy who eats locusts.
right.
There's a reason for all the things that he does.
I think post millennials can agree with almost everything that's in this book. So, and I
Oh,
think
yeah,
that's
I would hope so, because that's basically what I tend to consider myself.
right.
I'm full preterist leaning, but I also think that there's more to come. I just don't think we're really told about what that is in the New Testament.
Yeah. So, and that being said, there's probably a couple places in here where, there's give and take between me and
Mhm.
you on certain individual verses, and I don't have any issue with that. Um, tell, I want to mention this kind of what you did with the quotes. Really, you take this quote from this person and kind of harmonize that position together. And that's really how you come up, I think, with the position that we take on John in this book. Is that a fair assessment, you think? Some of
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I think so, because there's I mean, I'm a I remember Greg Bonson talking about the way Paul is referred to in is it Acts 17, where they talk about this babbler. Bonson points out that's a seed picker, that it's like somebody who goes through and just picks out little bits and pieces of what they like, and they put it together. Well, that's what I
Yeah.
do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm no researcher or anything. I just read a lot, and I like, oh, that's what this guy's saying. That's what
Yeah.
this guy's saying, and I just put them together.
Right. That's essentially what Paul did in the New Testament with the Old
Yeah,
Testament, piecing it. So
exactly. Right.
I I think this book is you did a lot more work on this than I did. Everybody needs to know that, number one. So this is Eric's baby. I was just kind of there for a little bit of help. How did I get in on this project, Eric? I don't even remember how that came about.
You did a talk on John the Baptist at David Curtis's, and I don't remember if it was last year. Was it 2024?
No, it was like 3 years ago.
Was it 3 years ago? It
Yeah.
was a while ago, and I saw the conference, and I don't think I watched the video, but I listened to it, and like, this is, yeah, and like I said, I've been interested in John the Baptist for over 2 decades, and it was always in the back of my mind to eventually write a book. Um, but I didn't know if it would just be on John, or if it would just be how John fits in with other. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But I kind of put it on the back burner and really didn't do much of it. I had little bits and like in different Word docs. I had scraps all over the place. But then when I heard your talk, I'm like, wait a minute, Zach is doing this too. So maybe we could put our heads together and actually get this book done.
Yeah. And we worked, I don't know. I mean, it probably took what, almost 2 years
Yeah,
to get it
unfortunately,
going.
because we were both employed in other ways too. So it
We
wasn't
had
it wasn't a
we
full
had a
time
lot
thing.
going.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, let's talk about some of the things we hit on in this book. We don't have to talk about the details, but I know we hit on the kingdom. I know we hit on him as
Mhm.
the messenger and Elijah. What do you think are some of the most important takeaways that we've probably got in here?
The thing that I'm most happy with is John's connection with Melchizedek. And that's just something that when people read it in the book, I don't know of anybody else that's quite put it that way. I'm not saying that it's necessarily original to us, but to me, it seems like, because Melchizedek's another one of those weird, just kind of shows up, and then he's mentioned, in the Psalms, and then mentioned again in Hebrews, and that's it. You don't. But he's held in very high regard. He's definitely, if not Christ himself, he's a Christ-like figure. And but he just shows up, does his thing, uh, puts a meal in front of Abraham, and then gets a tithe, and he's gone.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to John in that way. And I'm not gonna do the reveal here. You got to get the book to find out how Melchizedek and John are related. But I think, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that part. I just like the aspect of John being the segue, tying the Old Testament and the New Testament. And when you put John in context, to me, I think what this book does, it helps people put the New Testament in
Mhm.
context. Because I know at one point in the book, we talk about how Jesus and Paul and the rest of these people are playing off the same themes that John were, and how those themes that Jesus and Paul and the rest of the New Testament played off of are connected all the way back to the Old Testament and the prophets. And it really helps the story come together.
Mhm.
John's a centerpiece in the story that he's like a link between the old and the new. And I'm most pleased about that part. So,
Yeah, and there's this, one of the things that we tend not to do when we read the New Testament is to not just put ourselves in the story, in trying to let the Bible teach us, but just think about what was going on. Think about the situations, the historical context that those people were in. You have Anna and Simeon, who are both at the temple when Jesus is brought by Joseph and Mary. And they're both there, and then you read it in other parts where Herod and the Magi are coming because they see that. So there's this whole level of expectation. There's something that there's an imminency in that time, that people are recognizing. You've got Anna, who we were told is an old woman, but then Simeon, we just assume he's old too, but the Bible doesn't say that. He's
right.
he's just he's just an adult of marriage age, so he could be a young adult. And I kind of like that idea more, because then you have Zechariah and Elizabeth. They're both old, past their childbearing years, but then you've got Mary and Joseph, who are young, very. So you've got the old wearing out, and then you've got John being born to an old couple, and then Jesus being born to a virgin, to a
Yeah.
young couple. So there's God's doing something new in multiple different ways.
Yeah, the Bible's so layered,
Yeah.
and the typology, and James Jordan's had a huge influence on me, and even in some of my writings that are in this book. And I think you appreciate that world
Yep.
as well,
Absolutely.
and things like you just said really tend to that. All
Yeah.
right, so this book's for sale. Where can people get this book at?
Store.americanvision.org. We'll be doing all sorts of I don't know, different ad campaigns and different things over. I'm probably going to put a couple excerpts up as articles on the American Vision site, because we're recording this on the first Sunday of Advent, and John usually gets mentioned around this time of year, but again, in just kind of like a oh yeah, John the Baptist. He was the forerunner, and that's it. That's all you really hear about him. So I think this is an Advent type book. It's not all about that, but it fits in really well with the time of the year we're in, with the Advent season. And yeah, like I said, you can get the book at store.americanvision.org. The Kindle's available on Amazon, and you can also get the EPUB or the PDF from American Vision.
No, that's great. There will be a link attached below here in the comments of this video. I've actually got it default settings for all my uploads now, that it'll be in there. So any video
Okay.
I put out from now on, you'll be able to click it down in the links, and go check that out. I think it's $18.95. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but if you buy it through Zach's link, there's a 15% discount.
Okay. So yeah, my discount code will be Zach Davis, my name, and then my link will get you to that. So
Yep.
we're excited about it, Eric. I appreciate you including me in on this project, and I'm glad we finally got it done after a couple years.
Oh, I know. It feels great to have it in my hands. But yeah, now that it's done, it's like, well, now what? What's next?
No, we'll work on it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Eric, appreciate you. Hang on
Yep.
with me after we end this just for a
All
second.
right, will do.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Zach.